Welcome to this installment of the Secrets of the VenueMagic Master Series of tutorials. In this first set of 2 videos, we'll talk about VenueMagic Immersive Audio and how you can use it to create amazing immersive sound experiences. VenueMagic Immersive Audio uses a group of speakers organized in a particular way inside a room and utilizes audio panning effects to create the impression of 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional sound that surround you. As I mentioned, this tutorial is split into 2 videos. In part 1, which is this video, we'll show you how to organize your speaker placement and how to tell VenueMagic what that placement looks like. We'll assume that you have already viewed all of the VenueMagic Getting Started tutorial videos and that you have had at least some experience working with VenueMagic. Also, the immersive audio feature you're about to see requires VenueMagic SC Plus version 4.0 or above. Before we can start designing an immersive audio layout, we first need to make sure that we have the speakers to do it. From the main menu, select Devices, Setup Devices, and make sure the Audio tab has been selected. At this time, it's important to point out that VenueMagic Immersive Audio currently only supports ASIO audio output, so we're going to need to set that up first. Click Setup ASIO and select from whatever ASIO audio devices you currently have installed. Microsoft Windows only allows an application to use one ASIO device at a time. We'll select Dante Virtual Sound Card, which is one of the ASIO audio devices installed on this computer, and accept the default settings. Now we need to add audio outputs so VenueMagic can use them. Currently, we have only the primary audio output set up, so click Add. Enter in base output the name you want to give to this audio output. We'll leave it at the default, which is audio output. Now select the audio channel we want to use, in this case, Dante Channel 1. In Add Count, enter the number of audio channels you want to use. For this demo, we'll enter 32. Then click OK. You can see that 32 consecutive Dante audio channels were added, each with the name Audio Output, followed by an automatically appended number ranging 1 to 32. Click OK. So now, let's jump right into it with a basic 2-dimensional layout that uses 6 speakers. This will let you perceive sounds in a circle around you, but not above or below you. From the main menu, select Projects, Project Options, then click on the Audio tab. Then click on Edit Immersive Audio Layouts. The top section of this window shows a list of all the layouts you've created for this project. As you can see, it's currently empty. This lower section lists all of the components of the selected layout, namely a room, the speakers within the room, and listeners. A listener represents the position in the room where the immersive effect is most, well, effective. For most cases, you'll only want a single listener placed in the center of the room. Let's start by clicking Add to insert a new layout into the list. Notice that we're given 2 choices. We can either create a layout from scratch, which can be tedious, or we can tell it to automatically generate a layout according to our specifications. Let's go with the second option. Now enter the parameters that will be used to create our new layout, starting with a name. Next, specify the layout size. We'll stick to the default size, which is fine for now. Notice that it doesn't specify feet or meters or any type of units at all. Since everything in our layout relies on relative sizes and positions, we really don't need units. Just be sure to be consistent. In other words, if you enter these numbers in feet, make sure all of your sizes and positions are also in feet. For the room size, enter the length, width, and height of the room you're using. Panning mode specifies how VenueMagic will adjust speaker panning to give the audio impression of the direction a sound object is coming from. We'll talk about sound objects in the next video. For now, just select 2D. This will generate a single layer of speakers that surround you. Enter the number of speakers you want to use. The minimum number of speakers of a 2D layout is 6. Any less than that, and the panning function will not sound very good. Now, select whether you want the speakers arranged along the walls of the room or in a circle within the room. Let's choose a circle and click OK. You'll notice that a new layout was added to the list. The lower list shows the components that were created for our layout. There is a room, a single listener, and 6 speakers evenly dispersed at the same height around the listener. The speaker names have been automatically assigned for the layout. However, if you would like to see the actual audio output's name as it was set up in the Audio tab of the Setup Device window, check this box. Of course, it's pretty hard to envision 6 speakers around a listener from a list of numbers, so let's get more visual by clicking on Open in 3D View. We can now see the room, the listener, and the speakers in the simple graphical 3D editor. Let's take a few minutes to look at some of the features of this editor. First, click and hold the left mouse button in any empty area and move the mouse around. This will cause the 3D view of the room to rotate around the center of the layout, which happens to be where the listener was placed. Hold the Shift key down before clicking and moving the mouse will move the view up and down, left and right within the view window. Use the scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in and out on the layout center. If you click on an object in the view, like the listener, that object will be selected and these manipulator handles will appear. Left-click and drag the handle's arrows to move the listener in the X, Y, and Z directions. Click anywhere that is empty to deselect. To select multiple objects at once, hold down the Control key while selecting. Click and drag on a handle arrow for one of the selected objects to move them all at once. The Undo button here will back out of the moves you recently made. Notice that as you select objects in the view, their corresponding entries in the component list are also highlighted. As you move them in the view, their position values in the list also change. This goes both ways. As objects are selected and their positions changed in the list, their corresponding objects in the view are immediately updated. When you select a single object, the Object panel will show you the object type, in this case, a speaker, as well as the object's name, shape, color, and how it's rendered. You can modify anything in this panel except the object type. Feel free to play around with these settings to get a feel for them. The Center checkbox puts the currently selected object in the center of the view window and keeps it there even if it is moved. View rotation and movement will now center on the object rather than the center of the layout. In the Transform panel, you can set the position, rotation, and size of the selected object to specific values. Notice how the appearance and function of the manipulator arrows change as I select position, rotation, and size. When creating layouts, only the position of the objects matter. Rotation and size are for appearance only. These checkboxes restrict the movement of the object to specific directions, rotational axes, or size. For example, with Y and Z unchecked, only the X arrow can be used to move the object along the X axis. In the View panel, select the non-orthogonal view angle you wish to see in the window. The Perspective view lets you rotate and move the view. The others, left, right, top, bottom, front, and back, will allow you to move the view but not rotate away from the specified view angle. The Snap panel lets you select increments of movement and rotation as you drag object arrow handles. Check and uncheck these boxes to turn Snap on and off. Finally, the Show panel lets you make different components of the view appear or disappear. This is handy for removing clutter by showing only those things you want to see. They affect the room, the floor grid, the axis lines, which are left off by default, the speakers, the listeners, and object labels, which show the object's names as specified in the Layout component list or in the Object panel. These 4 options are not available in the Layout design mode and will be explained later. This button lets you set certain viewer settings like grid size and grid and label color, which you can experiment with on your own. For more detail on how the 3D viewer works, press the F1 key. As always, the built-in context-sensitive help manual covers all the details of every VenueMagic screen and function. No feature is too small, no detail too nauseating. Now, let's close the viewer on this 2D layout we've created and go on to the more complex 3-dimensional layout. Back in the Edit Immersive Audio Layouts window, click Add again and double-click on Auto Generate Layout. We'll leave these settings at their default value, only this time we'll select LBAP as the panning mode. Now we have a different group of parameters to set. LBAP stands for Layer-Based Amplitude Panning,
and as you might have guessed, involves laying out speakers into 2 or more layers. Let's suppose we want our room to have a single layer along the walls and one on the ceiling, for a total of 2 layers. This layer count refers to wall layers only, so we'll enter 1. The speakers per layers also refers to the wall layers, so let's enter 6, which is the same number of speakers that we set up earlier for our 2D layer. Next, specify the separation between layers. Again, this can be in feet, meters, or whatever, as long as you remain consistent. Specifying an actual unit of measurement is not required. Our second layer will be the ceiling itself, which we will divide into 2 rows and 2 columns along the length and width of the room. Check this box to indicate that we want speakers on the ceiling and enter the rows and columns of speakers. Now click OK and open the 3D viewer. We can see that VenueMagic has generated a layout containing 10 speakers, with 6 along the wall in one level and 4 in the ceiling. But I'm not entirely happy with this layout. First, I think it would be nice to have 2 wall layers, and second, each layer should have more speakers. In reality, the more speakers you install, the better the immersive effect will be. But adding up the cost of the speakers, the amplifiers, the audio output devices, as well as time and effort to actually install the speakers and hook everything up, you may find that too many speakers just isn't practical. Regardless, VenueMagic will handle as many speakers as you like, limited, of course, by the speed and resources of your computer. Still, I want more speakers. Rather than auto-generate a whole new layout, I can click on Auto-Populate Layout and reconfigure the layout I already have. This time, I'm going to add another layer, each with 8 speakers instead of 6, and spread the layers out a little bit. Also, let's make the ceiling 3 rows and 3 columns. Now we're up to 25 speakers. Keep in mind that the layout you generate should not have more speakers than your hardware can handle. Earlier, we set up 32 outputs on our Dante Virtual Sound Card, so 25 is well within the maximum number of speakers we can have in our layout. I'm also going to move the listener up to between the 2 wall layers so that the panning effect can allow for sound coming from below the listener's ear level. With the panning mode set to LBAP, you'll notice an additional panel at the bottom of the 3D viewer called Layers. In order for LBAP to work properly, all of the speakers, including those on the ceiling, must be divided into layers. In addition, the ceiling layer, if there is one, needs to have all of the perimeter speakers identified. Perimeter speakers are those that are closest to the edge where the wall meets the ceiling. That will become more clear in a minute. If you auto-generated the layout, all of this was done for you. You click on a layer in the select list and see that all the speakers in that layer are selected. Hold the Control key down while you click to select multiple layers. With the ceiling layer selected, you can see that all of the speakers are selected. To view only the perimeter speakers on the ceiling, check Perimeter Only. Notice how only those speakers closest to the edge are selected. The center one is not. If you entered some or all the speakers manually, or if you rearranged any of the auto-generated speakers, the layers and perimeter speakers will have to be identified manually. A good start would be to click the Auto Layer button, which will usually detect layer and perimeter speakers pretty well. If it misses some, you can manually select layer speakers by selecting the speaker, then specifying its layer. You can also make sure perimeter and non-perimeter speakers on the ceiling are properly identified by checking or unchecking the perimeter box. Chances are that the Auto Layer function did its job well, and you won't have to make any changes. For more information and explanation on layers and perimeter speakers, press F1 and scroll down to the section on the Layers panel. Once you have designed your layout, it's a good idea to check it for errors by selecting the layout and clicking Check. If there are any issues that may cause the panning algorithms to malfunction, you will see a report window that lists the errors. This window will not comment on how effective your layout will be for immersive audio. It will only check for errors that could cause a malfunction later on. Click Layout Report to generate a list of speakers, their positions, and the ASIO channels they are assigned to. This can be used to assist in knowing where the speaker should be placed in your room. Precise placement of the physical speakers isn't essential, but you should get it as close as you can. For any reason you need to change the ASIO channel assignments, you can do it in the Layout component list here. Just click on a row, Then click again in the column curd for that row, change the ASIO channel assignment, and press the Enter key. Be sure not to duplicate ASIO channels across speakers. Duplicates will be detected and reported. When you're done, click OK to close the Layouts window, at which time all of your layouts will be checked for errors and a report generated if there are any. Then close the Project Options window and save your work. Even if you're in the middle of designing a layout, it is usually a good idea to back out and save your work from time to time. This concludes Part 1 of VenueMagic Immersive Audio, part of the Secrets of the VenueMagic Masters tutorials. In this video, we learned how to create immersive audio layouts. In Part 2, we will see how to attach layouts to timelines and use the path editor to design audio object paths, creating a true immersive experience for your venue.